Google Flights is probably the best flight search tool in the world. I use it all the time. But there's a problem. There are entire categories of cheap flights that Google Flights simply won't show you. And some of the biggest savings aren't hidden in Google Flights at all. In one example we're going to look at, Google Flights showed me a business class flight for over $8,000. But another tool found a different way to do the exact same trip for under $1,000. And in another case, the cheapest flight Google would show me was about $100 more than the true cheapest flight available. So today I'm going to show you what Google Flights is great at, where it completely falls apart, and the tools I use to go beyond it. But let me be clear, I'm not here to tell you Google Flights is bad. The truth is quite the opposite. Let's start off with the 3 things it's truly great for. Google Flights is the fastest way to understand what a route usually costs, what's wildly expensive, and what's suspiciously cheap. Between the calendar view, the date grid, and the price history graph, it's perfect for setting the baseline. If you're not sure whether a $419 flight to Japan is currently a good or bad deal, Google Flights tells you the answer in 5 seconds. Then its map view is still one of the most underrated features out there. Technically it's called Google Explore, but it's integrated right into Google Flights. If you're flexible and just want to know where can I go cheaply from here, Google Flights is almost unbeatable. Almost. We'll get to a tool that still beats it here in a minute. But the third thing Google Flights is really great for is comparison. If you're comparing flight durations versus price, looking at different layover options, or avoiding awful routings, you get it all laid out in a nice way, and it just makes sense. Until it doesn't. Google Flights is amazing for finding out what flights should cost. But it's just not always the best tool for finding the absolute cheapest way to fly. Here's the problem. Google Flights was built to answer one specific question. What is the best conventional flight for this trip? It's optimized for airline-approved fares, protected connections, and clean, low-risk itineraries. It's just not built to answer questions like, what if I search from every airport across an entire continent? Or what if my layover city is actually my destination? Or what if I want to discover deals I would have just never thought to search for? Or even, how do I book this flight with points? So if you only use Google Flights, you're only seeing a part of what's actually available. That's not wrong, but it is incomplete. Now, there's one tool I use when I want to search on a much bigger scale, and that's Kiwi. Not the bird, not the fruit, the website. Now, I know what you're thinking. David, didn't you just show me that Google Flights already has a map where you can search for cheap flights all over the world? Yes, it does, and it's awesome. But here's where Kiwi gets interesting. Let's say you're trying to get from North America to Asia. Maybe, you're not really sure where you want to go. On Google Flights, you can search for multiple airports, and you can use the map to see what's available. But you can't just say, search every airport in North America and find me the cheapest flight to anywhere in Asia. With Kiwi, you absolutely can. I can put in North America as my departure and Asia as my destination, and suddenly I'm searching across a massive number of possible routes, thousands and thousands at once. If you're really flexible, you can even add more continents. Let's add Europe and Africa. Technically, you can actually just put anywhere, but let's say for this trip, you don't feel like going to South America. And keep your departure date on any time for the most flexibility. Maybe the cheapest flight's from Boston, maybe it's New York, maybe Chicago, maybe LA, or maybe it's an airport you never even considered flying from. Take this $175 Lisbon flight, for example. It's departing from Halifax. I mean, there's a chance some of you watching don't even know where Halifax is. So there's basically zero chance you're going to type in Halifax when you're searching on Google Flights. And that's the point. WestJet operates flights from Halifax to Lisbon for dirt cheap. And if you're starting your trip somewhere else in North America, it might actually be worth booking a separate flight to get to Halifax to take advantage of that deal. But if you don't know that route exists, you're probably never going to search for it. And for me, that's where Google Flights often falls short. Sometimes the best flight deal isn't hidden because Google Flights can't find it, but rather because you never thought to search from that airport in the first place. In short, with Kiwi, you can basically say, I don't care where I'm going to fly from, I don't care where I'm going to fly to, just show me the cheapest options right now. And that's something I find incredibly useful when I'm really flexible. But there's something you need to know before we go any further. I always recommend booking flights directly with the airline wherever possible. That insanely cheap flight you find to Africa, Asia, Europe, or wherever, use Kiwi to search for it, but then see if you can book those exact same flights directly with the airline. In this case, it turns out to be like $3 more when you book direct. But in my view, it's worth it knowing that you're not going to have to deal with a third-party website in case your flight is changed or canceled. But alright, Let's face it, most of us aren't usually flexible enough to pick a random destination on the map just because it's cheap, not to mention depart from anywhere within a whole continent. So what if you already know where you want to go, when you want to go there, but you're looking for a price that Google Flights simply won't show you? There's another website for that. But this one is a little controversial, so let's be clear. Skiplagged is a website that shows you flights where your layover is actually your destination. Google Flights will never show you this because the airlines absolutely hate it. So here's how it works. Let's say you want to fly from New York to Miami on August 5th and you're not flexible with your dates. Google Flights will show you that the cheapest nonstop flight on American Airlines is $280. Try the search on Skiplagged and it shows you that you can get there for $169. The catch is you need to book a ticket to Jacksonville, Florida via Miami, but get off in Miami. If you change Miami to Jacksonville in Google Flights, there are tons of flights via Miami to Jacksonville for that same lower price. Skiplagged wants you to actually book tickets like that directly with them. But it costs more because they charge a fee for what they call the Skiplagged guarantee. They do point out themselves that 99.9% of the time people don't run into issues. At least that's what they say, so it's really up to you if you think the fee is worth paying or not. Again, I pretty much always try to book directly with the airline. And if you want to get the absolute cheapest $169 ticket, you can just book it directly with American Airlines. That's over $100 less than if you had only gone to Google Flights. And no, I'm not telling you to do this, but I am telling you to understand why this price exists. It's a massive pricing loophole that Google Flights just won't show you. But if you ever were to do this, you've got to understand the risks. First off, you cannot check bags. Checked bags will end up at your final destination. And if you skip a flight, the rest of your itinerary will be canceled. Most people tend to book one-way tickets to best use skiplagging. By the way, another name you'll hear for skiplagging is hidden city ticketing. But whatever you choose to call it, it's probably not something you want to be constantly doing. It's generally not illegal, but it does violate most airlines' rules. And airlines can try to take action against passengers who do it. Some non-US based airlines even have no-show fees that they might or might not charge you. So again, I'm not telling you to do this, I'm just showing you that these fares exist, and if you were to only search on Google Flights, you'd never find them. So websites like Kiwi or Skiplagged can be seriously useful when Google Flights isn't showing you the prices you want. But that said, Google Flights does have another useful feature, price alerts. You can tell Google Flights where you want to go, put on a price alert, and it'll tell you when the price changes. That's great if you already know when you want to travel and where you want to go, but what if you don't? What if you're just looking for an amazing deal but don't want to spend hours bouncing between Google Flights, Kiwi, Skiplagged, and whatever other websites? That's where deal alert services like Daily Drop Pro come in. Instead of telling Google Flights to let you know if a specific flight gets cheaper, you can have deals sent straight to your email based on what you're actually interested in. With Daily Drop Pro, you can actually set up notifications based on what you want. Your preferred departure airports, which regions you're actually interested in traveling to, the types of deals you're looking for, and when you're actually looking to travel. This is really a game changer for people that don't have a ton of time to search for flights or research travel destinations. Rather than spending hours searching manually, when there's a deal, you get notified, and if you like it, you book. But Daily Drop Pro offers much more than just alerts. They've got a whole online interface with a bunch of useful features. And so far, everything we've talked about is about finding cheap flights that you pay for with money. But many of the best flight deals I've booked have been with points and miles. Stuff like 25,000 Virgin Atlantic points for Air France business class to Brazil when cash fares were over $2,000. Or flights from Europe to South Africa on Qatar Airways for 30,000 American Airlines miles during the peak Christmas period. When prices seem insane, but you still need to book a flight, points and miles are often the best answer. But there's a catch. When you use points and miles, the search process gets more complicated. You have points with banks like Chase, Amex, or Citi. And then there's dozens of different airline miles from United to Lufthansa to Japan Airlines. The list goes on. And then you have to figure out which flights have award availability and if the flight you want is even bookable with points. This is where I personally use Daily Drop Pro all the time. Instead of bouncing around dozens of different airline websites for hours trying to figure out where I can use my points, I just use Daily Drop Pro's point search. Instead of having to manually compare everything yourself, you can search across a bunch of different airline programs in one place and compare your options. Using Google Flights to find a few $100 economy class flight from New York City to London is one thing. Finding a lie-flat business class seat from New York to London that Google Flights says costs over $8,000, but booking it for 45,000 points just because you took 2 minutes to search on Daily Drop Pro is a whole different thing. The deal is literally so good that you could just buy the miles you need and still be paying about 90% less. Plus, Daily Drop Pro also does the same thing for hotel point searches. I use that all the time too, and Google doesn't do that either. So for me, this is where Daily Drop Pro fits into the whole system. Google Flights is where I start when I'm looking to book flights with money. And Google Flights alerts are great when I know where I want to go. Kiwi can help the search too if I'm really flexible, and Skiplagged is just darn cool. But when I want to discover deals I might not have thought to search for, and when I want to use my points, Daily Drop Pro is one of the tools I use all the time. Their top pro tier is very reasonably priced, and if you don't like it, you can just cancel and get your money back for the first 30 days. But if you use it constantly like I do, you're probably going to like it. So if you don't yet have Daily Drop Pro, give it a try using my link in the description. And if you do, you'll help support this channel at the same time. Okay, I've got one more tool for you. People don't mention it much, but you've got to know about it. ITA Matrix is basically the advanced version of Google Flights. ITA Matrix gives you way more control over how you search. You can do stuff like force specific routing rules, dig into fare construction, and search for complex itineraries that Google Flights just won't show you. For the average traveler, you probably won't need it that often. But if you're a frequent traveler who really likes digging into their flight options, this is where things get seriously interesting. You can piece together complex itineraries that Google Flights simply doesn't support, and often save a lot of money in the process. Like all the websites we're going over here today, it's not a place where you want to book, it's just a research tool, but I actually made an entire video showing you how to use it. So instead of going in depth, let me show you exactly what my flight search process looks like and how it sometimes includes ITA Matrix. When I'm looking for a flight deal, sometimes I'll get an alert from a service like Daily Drop Pro. But 9 times out of 10, I start with Google Flights. I use it to understand the baseline cash price if I'm not familiar, figure out what dates are cheapest, and get an idea of which airlines I'd be willing to fly and how much I'd be willing to pay. Sometimes I'm lucky and I find my deal right then and there, but when I don't, I usually search for points deals next. That's when I'll head to Daily Drop Pro and use the points search to see what award availability there is. Then, if I still haven't found the perfect deal, I'll look at the edge cases. More sneaky stuff, like routes I might not have thought of in Kiwi. I might check Skiplagged as well. Maybe. If you work for an airline and are watching this, of course I would never do that. And if I'm really struggling to find something, or I want to get specific with my routing, that's when I head down the ITA Matrix rabbit hole. Is there a way I can build an open jaw itinerary and connect with a cheap one-way flight in the middle? Nerdy stuff like that. And then whatever deal I find, whenever possible, I book directly. That means once I find the flights I want, I head to the airline's website and book them there. Google Flights, Kiwi, Skiplagged, ITA Matrix, and Daily Drop Pro are all tools that help me find the deal. Some of them are only intended for searching, but others do give you a way to book. But just because you can book there doesn't mean you should. When it comes to booking flights, I generally want to be dealing directly with the airline. And if you don't book direct, you can cause yourself a lot of unnecessary headache. But that's just me. How about you? Do you only book flights directly with the airline, or would you book flights on a third-party website too? That's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and give this one a watch next.